Imagine knowing exactly what's happening on your network, anytime, anywhere. With Domotz, you get real-time insights, proactive alerts, and full visibility into every device, switch, and connection, all from a single user-friendly dashboard. Domotz makes monitoring, managing, and securing your network effortless. Setup is quick, with automated device discovery and instant notifications if something changes or goes offline. No complicated contracts, no credit card required, just a powerful 14-day free trial to see how Domotz can transform your network management. Ready to take control? Visit itbusinesspodcast.com/Domotz and start your free trial today. Domotz, network monitoring made simple. Hello, friends. Uncle Marv here with another episode of the IT Business Podcast, the show for IT professionals where we share product stories and tips in an effort to help you run your business better, smarter, and faster. Today, I have what is basically part 3 in my Avik versus Domotz series. And today we are going to get a response from Domotz and see how they liked my original video and talk about some of the things that we did not chat about when I did that show with Darcy Wilson. So I am going to bring up Destiny Bertucci, and she is the senior or principal product manager at Domotz and has a nice 20-something years in the industry. So Destiny, hello and welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you doing today?
I am good. How are you?
I am doing well. Any day that we can talk about monitoring, I'm excited.
Are you really that excited about it?
I am. It's
okay.
It's a curse and a gift at the same time.
All right. And pardon me as I bring up the background there. I just realized that didn't have the proper staging there. But so I'm going to let everybody know that this took a little time. Both you and I have had some issues over the last week, and we had tried to get this out earlier, but you had some weather-related issues. I had some weather-related issues. So thank you for persevering and being able to join today.
Absolutely.
All right. So let me first start by asking, and I'm sure that you did, but did you see the very first Avik versus Domotz video, and what were your thoughts?
I did, and I actually thought it was honest on all sides as well as awesome. I thought it was really cool that they were all kind of discussing the same thing. So ease of deployment, obviously, as we know, but what I really thought was interesting from Darcy was how he brought up the fact of the reverse proxy. Like, I was like, that's like an unsung hero, in my opinion, that a lot of people may not know about, but it helps MSPs. I mean, you're not on site, you're not there. So to be able to do that and to be able to come back and forth and work with devices saves time and money. If I have to put a car together and get a tech out there, it's costing me a lot more money of which that's coming across there. So it was really neat to see how people almost have like this relationship with Domotz on some of the little entities of which that we have within Domotz that a lot of people aren't even aware of, like the VPN and things like that. So I really thought his insight was great. Obviously, I'm excited that it was solving problems for him. You know, that's what we're here for. That's what we're trying to do, is scale us out for the MSPs as well. But integrations and things like that he brought up, those are just kind of give-me's nowadays in the MSP. And I'm sure you probably noticed that as well. It's not just what you can monitor. It's how can we work with other tools that make me more efficient, right? Like, and I think at the end of the day, the integrations in SaaS and as well as just the plethora of the complexity that people have, because if you remember, they all went SaaS and then it was like, oh, let's go hybrid, and we're kind of in this, we don't know if we're trusting. Okay, well, now we have a lot of tools, but how do we see all these tools and put these things together? So I think it was really neat that both of them were able to talk about integrations and be able to be like, this is what saves us time. This is what saves us money. This is fantastic. This is working for us. So I thought that was really neat.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that.
So let's real quick, because I don't want to forget it. Let's talk about the reverse proxy, because one of the things that I did not do with them is go deep dive into each of the features they mentioned and stuff. The reverse proxy, and tell me if I'm wrong, that means that if you're looking at a device inside of Domotz, you can literally click connect into that device, whether it's a server, workstation, switch, printer, correct?
That is correct.
All right.
So it's something that what a lot of people like is it's a secure ability, right? And it's built in within Domotz itself. But our MSPs and our ITs, we also have a VPN, as you know, that's available within Domotz. But a lot of times they just don't have that connection ability. They don't have that set up as fast as they would like to. So generally, this acts as a tunnel, right? And we all know what the tunnels are, but it'll initiate an outbound from Domotz itself, and then it'll actually go to the Domotz cloud, which then will log you in and actually allow them to target the device inside the client's network. So again, it's one of those, we're not sending a truck, we're not sending a tech. It's what can I do when I can connect to it if I don't have VPN access, if I don't have a static IP, if I don't have firewall ports enabled and doing all these things, which a lot of the times when you're first getting set up for that ease deployment, as well as, there's a proactive alert, right? And I know something's going on. Is there something I can do now to mitigate this? And like, me and one of my friends, Leon, used to always say was like, mean time to innocence, right? Like, not it, like it's not me, or like, how can I fix this? So that agent and the probe, which that it's installed on, it'll allow them to actually go in there, create them with dashboard. They'll be able to launch it. They can initiate RDP. They can do SSH, VNC. They're able to actually route that through the cloud infrastructure and keep going and troubleshooting. And that is what I love about this tool. Has so many options to troubleshoot that it's like we're giving you tools to troubleshoot where you're at. It's not like go on site or go figure this out or get other people there to do work. They're paying you to do it, right? And so it's like, how can we enable you to actually be able to work with devices that you're being responsible for? You have SLAs for, you have all of these things that are coming across there. So it's like, we have a VPN also within the product, but it's also outside of that. If you don't have that set up yet, and say you're like in an emergency situation or doing something, reverse proxy allows you to get to the problem, mitigate it for the best of your ability once you get onto the actual device in the area.
All right. So let's take a quick step back now and go back to the very beginning when you said anytime you can talk about monitoring, you're excited.
Yes.
So I want to dig a little deeper into why are you excited? And let's start with what got you into the industry, because some people are excited in the beginning and then it kind of wanes off.
Right.
And then some people, if they get to a new area, they're excited. I don't know. I want to hear a little bit about your history. And I know that you, it looks like your history says that you started at SolarWinds. Is that correct?
For the monitoring, yes.
Okay.
So I was actually a network engineer first. When I got out of high school, I went into LPN, which is nursing, and I did not like that. And I went straight into my first Security Plus, which was the first time they were actually doing that at the Votech where I lived at, and CCNA. So I was like, I'm going to switch bait. Let's go over here, which actually was very similar to your body. I'm not going to lie. Like switching to networking from nursing was like, it was this weird parallel universe. It was like, oh my gosh, this all makes sense. Our body is networked. Our body does everything, our endocrine system. So I really took to it very, very well. And so when I got my first networking job, I was at a healthcare institute in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I was, pulling the cables, doing everything, making cables, having a blast, to be honest. That was when floating floors and everything were coming in and was doing stuff. So I loved it. And then one of my friends from high school was actually working for SolarWinds. And he was in the sales, and I had lunch with them, and they were showing me some of the tools which they did. And it was Cirrus at the time, which if you're long in the tooth like me, it was Cirrus, but now it's NCM. And so I actually started using their tool, and I was like breaking it, and I kept breaking it, and I was like kept
on
sending
purpose?
it back. Yeah, like I was just like, well, what's this do? Well, this isn't working. Like I expect it to do this. And anyway, Don Janssen, they actually brought me in for an interview, and they were like, you're actually understand what we're trying to accomplish. Do you want to work with us? But the only thing they had at the time was a sales position, and they were like, we're it's kind of a pseudo engineering, like we're going to work with them. So when I came on board, I was the 13th employee at SolarWinds, and I kind of I took over like solutions. I was in sales, but I wasn't selling. I was providing solutions because I was like, man, let's get in your network. Let's look at it. How's it set up? How complex it is? What devices are you using? And then I went over into, and I became like an application engineer, and I ended up being one of their head geeks that was there, as well as one of their PMs. I had multiple roles there. It was really nice to be able to grow up with them, if that makes sense. So it was kind of cool. I was there for 15 years. And so each module that SolarWinds got, I started getting certifications in. So I have a ton of certifications because it was like, okay, we're going through servers. So now I need to get server application, certs. I got to get more networking. Oh, we're doing SD-WAN, or we're doing this, we're doing that. So I built up a plethora on a background of that stayed within networking and doing things because I really wanted to solve problems. At the end of the day, that's where I was at.
All right. And what got you over to Domotz?
So I'd actually, when I went over to Domotz, it was because it felt like a younger startup, which it's not, but I'm meaning it was like, it felt like it was at this place of growth, like something exciting that was happening. And so when I actually came on, it was all about like deeply rooted in the network monitoring. They're really wanting to solve problems and not just features. And so as soon as the CEO, Domenico, when he was just like, I'm wanting to solve these issues, I'm wanting to get in there, I'm wanting to make sure that they're able to see them for what they are and troubleshoot it, right? Like he's like, this is why we created this business, because he was at first in residential, he was like, we're solving problems that people have, but they just can't find it, right? It's like that needle in a haystack, or it's something that's coming across here. And so we have been revamping since I've been on here, which I came on in November of last year. And it was like, it's been a roller coaster of fun. He's expanded the engineering, he's expanding the product awareness, the UX of which that's in here too. So we're in like kind of a heightened ability of scalability and changing out things of which is coming across there. Our roadmaps are pretty significant and for some of the things that we're wanting to do. But at the end of the day, it got back to why I originally started in this business was, let's solve some problems and let's give people the clearance to solve these problems. And so that was really exciting for me. So I was just like, yes, let's solve some problems and get them out there.
So you haven't been there a full year yet.
Nope, not yet.
So when people come to you and say, hey, what makes Domotz so different? What makes it stand out from, other products that are doing network monitoring? What does that mean to you, especially in the context of the MSP space?
So I love the way that we're able to give them the collectors of which that comes through there, and they can actually use these in different ways of like, this is Office 1, this is Office 2. They're able to actually build out their topology. I like the VPN fact, the reverse proxy. Like it seems like it's more security first focused, if that makes sense, of how can we actually make these connections? How can we give them the abilities quicker? And then I think the thing that sets us apart is we have over 1,000 integrations. That's huge. We're trying to be API first as well as some of the things that we're doing, which is only going to help us grow faster as well as with our customers. So one of my teams is actually integrations. And so one of the things that we're really working on constantly, and I'm sure our users know that as well, is we are posting out all kinds of different integrations all the time. And we're helping people get their scripting in. We're allowing them to connect to devices that they can't see and other tools. We're allowing them to gather more significant data. And when I mean that is, Domotz is not just health performance. Health performance, as we both of us know, right? Like IT monitoring has been around for years. It's not front page news. However, health performance on the level, like where's an anomaly, where some of these detections, where some of these things are at, that's great. But when you start to understand your problems and need to really deep dive into these and be like, hey, these integrations are going to give me more insight, like how many people are in a room, that are actually doing video? How many people are canceling? What are some of these things that are coming out here that where they're trying to get that enriched data, and some of them are feeding it to observability platforms as well. That's where I think we shine, is because we take the time to understand those use cases. We take the time to work with our customers. I mean, all of us are working with customers, and I think that's something very different than most, is that we're working with sales, support, enablement. We're working with, all of us are working with users to make sure that we're understanding what the problem is that they're trying to solve, and get that out as quickly as possible. And so I think that mainly the differentiators that we have is the reliability of how we're up, and to be able to be out there, the way that we're doing our pricing because of the way of the managed device, the insight that you're getting outside of just your basic health performance. Because when you start enabling yourself with integrations and SNMP sensors and things like that that are already templated and available for you, that's when you're truly understanding your environment and have a handle on your environment, so you can use the other tools that we have in there that are kind of hidden, right? Like on the VPN and the reverse proxy. Now solve the problem before you get there. Like solve the problem before the customer is calling you. And we can actually give you, here's something that's of issue, here's a way to fix it. And now you're able to be like, hey, we are on top of that. We got you covered.
You mentioned pricing. I was going to ask you that a little bit later, but that kind of falls under the concerns from MSPs, where I know that for a long time, your pricing was just by site, and you introduced the per device pricing. And if I understand it, you still have the two models, but explain that to us and tell me how that has what feedback you've gotten from MSPs and what that has done for Domotz.
Yeah, so a managed device is going to allow you to get more insight, do backups, things like that, right? Like I'm actually connecting to the device. I'm able to do something with the device. That's more of a managed device. Monitoring devices you can have as many as you want. So you can have all of these monitor devices that's going to tell you up, down status, be on your topology, be able to see what you have, like an inventory list of which that you're needing to do. And so that's allowing us to shift gears a little bit and be like, okay, before, to your point, it was location, where if you paid per collector of which that you had. Now it's $1.50 a managed device. You get all the monitor devices for free, right? And so it's like, how many do you need to manage to be on there? And we do have a 20 limit, as you've seen, like, to start you off is $20 or 20 devices for the managed buy-in. And then it's $1.50 each one that you have out there. And that's allowing people to actually grow with us. And that's also a misconception of the scalability. And I'm like, we scale. We have plenty of people that are enterprise level. And what they're doing is they're shifting from the location actually to managed, because when they're actually paying just $1.50 for that and branching out, you can have as many collectors as you want. So again, they're like, I have 42 collectors and say I have 40 devices on there. Well, that's only at $1.50 a device, right? And so it's like, but then they're actually monitoring 100, because they're monitoring 100 devices for up, down status, awareness, printers, online, offline, things like this. And you get that actually included. That comes in there.
Okay. So let me ask a more defining question on that, because I know that you've got where there's the one thing that says persistent devices as opposed to total devices. So when you're talking about paying per device, is that per device you're going to dig into? And I mean, how do you describe what's a device versus what's just being monitored?
Yeah, so we have a view that actually shows you can go into your collector itself, go to the settings, and you'll actually go to the monitoring configuration. When you go there, you can actually move devices to managed or monitored. You choose. We do not choose. So it's like you can choose which ones that you want to move to manage, which ones you don't want to, and they just become monitored. So when the collector goes out and discovers everything as quickly as we do, it'll actually say on the first round, these are what we consider network devices, and we're going to move those to manage for you. You can control if you want to keep them there or not, or if you want to manipulate them and move them around. What that allows you to do is you have your monitored ones of which that it discovered. And if you've chosen to have those as managed, now you're able to do the backups. You're able to get the SNMP sensors, do more with the integrations, because then that's when you have to provide us with login credentials and to do things with them, right? Because it's not just ICMP up, down. It's now I'm able to log into the device, or I'm able to back up the device, or I'm able to do more with this device. That is a managed device. The rest of them would be considered monitored.
Okay.
And so again, you have full capability of that and ease to move those back and forth of what you're wanting to use for those actual managed devices.
Okay. That helps. And that was going to be one of the things I asked about. What's the common misperception out there about Domotz and pricing, at least as far as I could tell from, all the groups and, the Reddits and stuff, that was the one thing.
Well, and we also have started a beta. I don't know if you knew this or if anybody else, but it's where you get 10 monitor devices completely for free. And that way you don't have to necessarily have a managed device, buy in a limit of which that comes across there. You get 10 actual monitor devices completely free. You're able to use the product, view it, and be able to do some stuff. And if you want anything to do with that beta, you can actually reach out to me. I would be able to help anybody out to be able to get onto that so that you can kind of see what we're working towards to provide that for our users, because we are constantly listening on the pricing, and we're trying to make it more apparent of the value of the monitor devices on top of just, with the managed as well.
Okay. Let me now kind of switches here and make sure we try to touch on some more stuff. Is there anything that would be considered, a recent update or improvement for Domotz that directly responds to things that Darcy said in that first video? Besides, I know we mentioned the reverse proxy, but was there anything else that stuck out?
So he was mentioning the view, right? Like he was like, he was wanting more of a multi-site roll-up view, which I completely agree with him. And that is actually on our roadmap. So that's something that we're doing. At the beginning, when I was like, it was so exciting to be here because we're actually solving problems. So we have some fantastic UX that are here now, and they're actually looking at the whole of the product. So you're going to start noticing some significant changes, and some have already been noticing them with like the total managed device count that's on your Explorer page. There's also more things that are going to be coming apparent on the managed versus monitored that's going to be in there. When you go to the monitoring dashboards and things of that nature, you're able to see more information than what you did before. We have things like RBAC, which I know everybody talks about RBAC, and they're like, yay, when's RBAC coming? How are we going to be able to get this, view only and things like this? Those are already in progress. Chris is a fantastic PM, and he is the one that is working on that and getting those rolled out. So you're going to see those this year. And you're going to see updates into how we apply things to to the devices, and how we can actually do things at a faster scale than we are even today. So if I have like an SNMP credential, like that's going out to where it's like, yeah, apply a global one now, to this collector so it can go out there and do that. And then how can I change these at a mass level, without just using the API? So now we're able to do a little bit more within the actual UI. And I think that our users, if you keep kind of check in with us, right? And look at our release notes, because we're really active right now. And what we're trying to do again is make it more intuitive for the user, create those views like what he's talking about, because we have a lot of people that have been wanting that dashboard. How can I see the roll up of which is coming across here? We're working on these things. We're listening, and we're trying to make sure that we can get those to come out there quickly. And with the integrations too, it's because I know a lot of people, like he mentioned reporting. We do have a lot of integrations that's going to work with your reporting, like Power BI and things like that, of which that you can, plug in and do some things with reporting. But we're working on that too. We're trying to define the dashboards in relation with reporting, so we have a lot of abilities, and we have some excellent UX right now that is really honed in on what does onboarding look like? What does the user expect when they're in here? And listening to all of the MSPs as well as internal IT. What do you need at the end of the day, right? Like, what do you want up on your screen? Or if you have a big screen in your actual, rooms and things like that, like not views. What is it that you're actually looking for? And we've had them compare some other products and tell us what they've kind of pick and choose from that out of there, what behavior they're trying to look at and at what level. And so I think we have a really strong handle right now on the user experience portion of it, that you're going to see a lot that gets and we are pushing it out. So you're going to start seeing it trickling out and going through here. So please check out with our release notes, and you'll be able and stay up to date with our website, because there is a lot going on at Domotz to be excited about.
All right. Let me ask you this. I'm gonna try to trick you up here. I know that the Domotz box, there's an MSP side, but you guys are also targeting a lot of integrators and things that are, in the home residential, the camera market, a whole bunch of other things that can be monitored. So it's not just the MSPs.
Absolutely.
So how do you guys separate out, what's being done for everybody else, and then what specifically is for MSPs?
So actually, you're the kind of go side by side, to be honest. What we're seeing now is a lot more MSPs being burdened with like, hey, like, is my video equipment up in my conference room? Is this stuff actually working as expected? Like, how do I know? Schools especially too, right? Like, hey, is my projector up? Is these things going? It literally was a handshake to the MSPs, because a lot of that internal IT is going to MSPs, to where they hadn't had their hands in the air because some of their monitoring tools didn't have those abilities, those codecs and everything of which that came across there. So you're able to use the same functionality. You're able to now actually switch a lot of this stuff up to make it pertinent to you. And with RBAC, that's really going to become important, because it's like view only, or you only get to see this portion, or I'm not going to show this portion of which it's going to come across there. So I think that as a whole, we're Internet of Things. I mean, we have that nailed. We have that in the bag. Like, we've been doing that for a very long time. And so it's one of those things of, now I feel like MSPs are getting a broader picture into things that they weren't necessarily watching before. Right. And so that's something that I think has been super awesome to talk with some of our MSPs, because I was literally on a call with one of them, and he was like, what do you mean the video's down? And he was like, just a second. And so he like went back there and he came back on, and I was like, did you know that we actually can monitor those? Like, and you would be able to know that? And he was just like, are you serious? You can monitor the cameras? I'm like, absolutely. Like, let me show you. And then that helped him, because he's like, I actually have a lot of users who need to reboot or bring up cameras for conference rooms to be ready and to do things and to check things. And they were like, this is actually something I wasn't thinking about, but now I'm going to use in my product as a service to my clients. So I think it's actually a melding together. It started off residential, don't even get me wrong, but at the end of the day, monitoring is monitoring, right? It's like, can I connect to it? Can I see it? What can I actually gather from it? And how can I make that do something for me?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it makes the job for MSPs easier, in the sense that we've always pointed the fingers at other vendors that brought in things like cameras and phone, VoIP, phones, door access systems, all of that stuff, copiers even, where it's like, well, that's not our responsibility, but it's on our network. Yeah. So we should be able to see it and manage it and monitor it. So sounds good there.
Yeah. Well, and I think something that I get excited about it though, because it's like they think of it in a new direction when they see it in a monitoring tool. So before it was like, oh yeah, router, who has access? I'm looking at access list. I can deny ports. I can do things, which is coming across here. Yay, I have the network. But now they're like, no, it's my environment. And now I feel like I can actually see my environment correctly. I understand my environment, which will then allow you to better appropriate bandwidth. When do we need to do things? Do I need to adjust my SD-WAN? And if you're monitoring with Domotz and you're doing backups, did the SD-WAN actually do what I told it to do? Like, did it make a change? Did it actually push out? Did it solve the problem? So you can fine tune and adjust. But now you're not just, hey, we're having issues with video. What's going on? It's, hey, we know that the bandwidth is up here, so let me go ahead and allocate more bandwidth, because I'm aware of the video. I can see the video camera. I can actually pull screen capture from here and be like, it is working as expected, not it. Right? And that's what that mean time to innocence gets me. I love that portion, because your network does not change. If it changes constantly throughout the day, something is wrong, right? Like tremendously wrong. So at the end of the day, you need to understand your environment. And that goes back to my healthcare stuff, right? Where it's like, what's my baseline? That way I know if something's wrong. And then it's like, well, all right, if something's wrong with my arm, how do I start to see this full actual environment and actually solve the problem, right? And so there's so many tools within Domotz of which that you're able to solve a problem, not just troubleshoot a problem.
All right. You've responded a little bit about some of the things that are on the roadmap, some of the problems that are being addressed. Do you know if Domotz has a long-term vision for MSP partnerships?
Yes. So we have a huge MSP long-term vision, and one of the things that I love to do here is strategize. And Domenico, the CEO, as well as my boss Matt Young, he is amazing at their like, but what's tomorrow? What is tomorrow that's going to look like out there? And I will say that we are not afraid to look what is tomorrow. And I think that is, to be honest, back to your original one of your original questions when you're asking me what gets me excited. That is exciting. I've always felt kind of more like we have to stay in our lanes, if that makes sense, and future will get to us when we allow it. To where here at Domotz, we are actively looking in the future and how can we actually use some of the new technology, the new abilities of which that are out there, so we can put it in there and better help MSPs. MSPs and internal IT. I don't want to just say it's MSP because internal ITs as well. But MSPs, they have service level agreements. And some of the things that I'm looking at is, what does all of your healthcare people look at? What does all of your banking people look at? What does these people, when we start looking at verticals and we actually start to dive in, you start noticing a lot of actual things that are patterns, right? Like you start seeing the patterns that are there. So it's like, hey, if I'm now an MSP and I'm looking over here and I'm saying they're similar to you and they're doing XYZ, I can present this information with confidence and then make sure that everybody's at scale correctly and being monitored correctly. And then you can actually use this information back and forth. So there's a lot of templating ideas. There's a lot of profile management and things like that that we're actively working on that you're going to see this year that I think is going to help them to really hone in on their business of monitoring as well as management for these key individuals, their actual customers, but do it across the board and be able to see these as verticals and actually help everyone. But also something goes wrong, you know what that expectation is because it's similar to the actual verticals of which that are there. There's a lot of that's there. And then as soon as we start getting more levers to pull for our back and things of that nature, well, that opens up doors for more advanced alerting. That opens up more doors for advanced credential management. So this is the things that we are focusing on now. That is things that are going to help MSPs as well as to internal ITs now, in the future, right? And I think that by incorporating all of this mass knowledge in the way that we're all working together, we're going to be able to convey that, and our users are going to really be able to look at us and be like, oh my gosh, they're getting it, right? Like this is why we're doing this. This is the exciting times of the IT industry. And I mean, with you as you know, like machine learning, AI, all of these things of which that are out there, they're great, right? Fantastic. But if they're not used correctly, they're actually hindered, right? Like they can actually hinder you. They can get you at false positives. They can actually do some things that are out there. So instead, it's more like, how do we use these tools to advance us forward? And then on top of that, how do we use these to put the power back into the MSP's hands to be better on top of the issues and to be able to actually resolve issues quicker without hitting the road and actually getting out there? So reducing costs and that meantime to innocence, really.
Meantime to innocence. That's a nice phrase to hear. All right. So we've talked about a lot of stuff. I've asked a lot of questions in the event that we run out of time. Let me ask you, is there one thing in particular that you made note of that you wanted to mention that either wasn't addressed in the first video or I did not ask you today?
Yeah, I think one of my takeaways that I want like listeners and everybody to kind of know is that Domotz is more than a monitoring tool. One of the things that I like to say is it's kind of your MSP command center. And I think when you start to see it from there, I think that's when they start to really engage with their monitoring and management. There's something that I have said in everywhere that I've been. People are engaged in their certifications. I'm a firewall expert. I'm a network expert. I'm, SaaS. I'm these things. Where's your certification for the monitoring? Well, that's because it's kind of a leftover side thought, right? It's like, here's your thing, like go monitor this, like here's your checkbox. And when CIS controls and everything came out, it was like, oh, checkbox, you have to have monitoring, you need to be aware of everything. And I've seen so many people set it and forget it, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And it's like, if you're not engaging with it, you need to understand how monitoring can be proactive. And I don't care what tool you use, I really don't. Understand your problems and use whatever tool you're using to monitor that problem, to give you a proactive sense of awareness so that you can do something about it instead of after the fact. And if there's one thing that I could get across with that is, please, like, look at what are you getting dinged for? What keeps you up at night? What is actually happening that you can, that you can respond to, and let's work there. Start with your problems, your biggest problems, and work yourself backwards. But you need to be in your tools at least once a month, readjusting, looking, what am I missing? What am I seeing? How can I make this tool work more for me? So that's something that I think overall for monitoring is, let's understand monitoring as a whole ecosystem, right? And again, let's start with, where's your problems? Where is that going to come across there? Let's get those KPIs. Let's get those SLAs for yourself and your teams. And let's start using our monitoring tools to actually make us proactive and get a handle on these situations. So, I mean, even when your alert comes out, you can tell it like, hey, this is what we need to do to fix this. We know, we have a game plan. We have a playbook, right? And it's like, you have to be engaged with your monitoring system, no matter what it is, to be able to accomplish that.
All right. Destiny, thank you very much. There's so much more that we could talk about, but for the sake of this format, I'm going to have to end it there. But thank you for all of that. And thank you for participating in this first Mono e Mono podcast series that took us a little while to put together. You guys were very happy to do this. So I want to say thank you, not just to you, but also to Violet, who helped put this together. And JB, before he left, was a big part of all of that. So thank you for that. And folks, we're going to end off there. And I will have a link down below. If you have not watched the first video, well, first of all, you shouldn't have watched this one. But if you haven't, you watch this first. I'll have a link to go back and watch that. And then I will be doing a final follow-up video here, probably in the next week or so, to kind of put a period exclamation point on Avik versus Domotz. And as you can tell today, Domotz has established itself as a prominent network monitoring solution, and it is getting more and more specifically designed for the managed service community. And thousands of integrations, thousands of things that we can now see on our network. And as I always say, if you can't see it, you can't manage it. And Domotz allows us to do that. So that is going to do it for this episode. On behalf of my guest, Destiny Bertucci and Domotz, I'm going to say we'll see you soon. And until next time, holla.